her in like one of the early episodes. It may have even been like 2 or 3. I can't really remember when she first showed up, but it may have even been, episode 4. But when she first showed up, I think was when she actually mentions her sister, or somewhere in there they talk about it, and it was like, oh, we don't really know anything about Mon Mothma. So that was, they referenced that, and then it's like her sister's, we get introduced to her sister, but we have no idea. Sister comes along, and it was funny when she met with I want to say her name is Lyda, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. When she met with her, I was like, she looks oddly fancy to be like stealthing around and stuff. I was like, just the way she was dressed when she met her. Also, Lyda looked like a Night Sister. Like for anyone who hasn't played Jedi Fallen Order, they have a Night Sister in there, and she wears like all red. She doesn't wear a hood, but some of the other ones do, or they have, or maybe no. I think she does wear a hood actually. And so I was like, when I was watching, I was like, this is weird because like her outfit, it wasn't the same type, but it was very akin. I was like, it's the same type of red and it's a full thing and it's got the hood. I was like, she kind of looks like a Night Sister. I don't know if that was on purpose or just random coincidence, but I was like, she looks like a Night Sister. But she goes to meet her, and obviously still horrible with the names. I went through the whole thing. Also, I technically did a hide, but at the same time, it wouldn't matter. I just never remember names. I go through them like I got my main character. I finally remember Sybil's name. I kind of got late. It's like it's not Lyda or something like that. It sounds like Leia, but it's not that, because for half a second I was like, did he say Leia? I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But they meet up, and I was just like, okay, we have one woman who looks like a Night Sister, the other woman who ends up being tasked with killing Cassian, because it's like, we don't really know if we can trust him. We got to kill this dude. She looked really regal, and it turned out there was a reason for that. But when it first happened, I was just like, she looks oddly fancy for some odd reason. And then it turns out she's a fancy rich girl, or she could be, but she's playing the more serious side of life, being a rebel. So I thought that was really cool. They had another great moment where they're back on, I believe Aldani is the planet that he left and not his home planet, but they're back on the planet from the first arc, and we see her and her girlfriend have reunited and things have been good. And then it's like, oh man, she wants to kind of, in a sense, she kind of wants to leave the rebel life behind. It's like, hey, we found each other. And then her girlfriend was like, rebellion comes first. Like, you cool, we cool, but this is real. And like, that's kind of how it was. It was like, you're important to me, but you're not really as important as this. And, she's very big picture, and, it was kind of just like, dang, and granted, I think, once they kind of revealed that was Mon Mothma's sister, it was kind of like, oh, I could kind of see why she would be on the side of, we kind of found each other, like we can have something great, because technically, even though she's clearly fighting for the rebellion, just like Mon Mothma, they did both grow up in the rich life. Like there could still be like just a slight hint of that, where obviously she's fighting for the cause. I mean, she could have died, but after doing a big mission, she's like, hey, now we can kind of be done with it. And her girlfriend's like, no, that doesn't really work for me. If I remember right, like stormtroopers killed her brother. So it was kind of like, they're still on different sides. Like she chose to do it because, like she could, Mon Mothma's sister. They both did, I guess. It was like they chose to do it because they had the opportunity to do it. And it was like, we should do good for other people. And then, a lot of the other people we've seen so far, it's like, I'm doing it to help other people not suffer. Like I've actually suffered. And I don't think, basically the Mothmas have really suffered. They just know that they're suffering. They haven't truly suffered. I mean, technically your sister has now, having gone through a mission where they basically lost everybody. But before that, it was kind of like, just the way it seemed, it was like, okay, she's definitely down for the cause. She's clearly, they've done other missions, but it was an interesting little thing, like where, little stuff, bits and pieces started to tie together, like her randomly looking fancy. And then that coupled with she's okay leaving. And it's like, it's like, there's still a part of that where she had it easier. So it's easier for her to kind of detach it, where she didn't have to suffer because of the Empire, but she knows they're suffering. And there's a difference between knowing there is and going through it. So I thought that was a cool little thing where it's like, that's why they show the different levels. And then she kind of uses the same line on Mon Mothma, which I was like, okay, that's pretty interesting. She kind of has to still herself a little bit. So I like the way they handled that. They're kind of just waiting for Cassian to come back. We find out his mom is joining the rebellion, which I thought was very interesting. So I was like, all right, she's getting herself hurt. She was walking to make sure there's like tunnels still underneath the hotel and things like that. And of course, Cassian's been missing because he's like, all right, hey, I want to take you with me. And she's like, I can't do that. So he takes off. And it was the craziest thing. I was like, okay, I'm really curious how this next arc is going to go. He's done the mission. Obviously, he left things behind. He's like, I'm not joining the rebellion or anything like that. So where do we go from here? He tries to get his mom. He's like, it's the three of us. We take off, and that doesn't really work. And it's like, all right, well, I have to go. Like I can't leave. You can't stay. So he had to leave. And so it seemed like it had been a couple days. Slept with somebody, gave another brand new fake name, got new identity, all that stuff. And he's just out on a stroll. There's some people running. And honestly, he made himself look suspicious. Just in that first part, I thought something weird was going to happen because I'm like, they're already chasing the people down. They know you're not involved. So, like, don't make yourself look extra weird. But then he decided, like, well, just in case, let me get out of here. And he goes from one seemingly safe position where the people are clearly going to just run right past him. He could have just sat down and been like, okay, that's crazy, huh? And then the troopers would have went right by. But he was like, oh, let me just get out of here. He made himself look suspicious. Even in that scene, I was like, he probably should have just sat down if he didn't want to look suspicious or weird. But it's like, he could just walk off. Like, it ultimately, seemingly, there's no big deal. It's like, all right, just walk a little faster, get ahead of these people running all around you, and just take off to the side. But of course he does that, and he keeps doing it because he was moving a little quick, and then he came up with a stormtrooper, and well, he wasn't a stormtrooper. I guess he technically would have been not a sand trooper. I don't know. They all have different names for like the different obviously climates, so it's not technically a stormtrooper. But we're gonna go with trooper in general. Comes across a trooper, played by Sam Witwer, I believe that was him, and it was just like, were you a part of it? And he's just like, what? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Which of course he didn't. But he was just in a bad spot. He was just in a really bad position. And then he got choked up. It was like, this is crazy. And then he got arrested. It was like, used to be 6 months, no big deal. 6 years. It was like, I'm a tourist. Like, you can tour this jail, bitch. And then they just kicked him in and that was it. Like, it was wild. I was like, this is effed up. Like, that was like some real world type stuff. Like, people just going to prison, just like, oh, we think you did it. We're pretty sure you're involved. We don't really want to check. They literally had a group of people run past. There were like, what, 3 or 4 people they were chasing down. Literally could have asked a single person, hey, was this guy involved with everything that you guys were doing? Like, unless they were just absolute douchebags, I'm pretty sure they would have been like, no, he's innocent. He wasn't with us. Like, whatever. He wasn't a part of the thing, which it was funny that he kept saying you're a part of it and they don't even reference what it is. I assume they just stole something, but it would be funny if that actually came back into play later on. Like, it was actually like a rebellious thing going on. And then somehow it ends up coming back, in the last arc. That'd be really crazy. But it was just like, you're part of it. And it was like, a part of what? Like, I'm just a tourist. And then 6 years in prison, which is just like, that's nuts. So tour ruined. Hopefully he gets his money back because he's gonna break out. But it's already been a month and he's basically disappeared. He was going out to get food and snacks, and the woman he was with is probably like, "What happened? He disappeared forever." So hopefully his money's still up there when he does eventually make a prison break and he gets out. Maybe he'll still have the credits. I kind of doubt it because they're gonna search the place. It's been a month and it's just crazy. It was just like, wow, that really has to suck. So they do a time skip. We find out that he's already spent 30 days in there. And it was interesting. Andy Serkis is in there. It was like, okay, cool. So he's the shift lead. It was like, this is how things work. If you get out of line, we zap you. The whole floor is electrified and everything. So it's a whole big plan. It's a whole system. Very clean looking, but everything in the Empire it's all whites and grays and stuff. I love the outfits. I was like, I kind of wish they would sell those outfits. Like I thought it was pretty cool. It's just like white with the orange, and then the medical guy came in and he had the blue, and I was like, oh, that's a cool way to do that. So I was like, I kind of like the outfits. I thought that was neat. And they're going through this process. Obviously, he's dealing with being stuck in prison. It seems like he's he's doing his normal things. Like, look, I got to get out of here. There's one person they don't really focus on too much, but obviously he was already making a plan because they were like, all right, look, you see him, like he touched the gate. He's like, wow. He's like, believe me now. So he was already going through the plan. He was trying to get like Andy Serkis involved. That's all I know because I can't remember his name. If they even actually said it, I'm sure they did. But he's trying to get him involved. And it's like, look, keep your mouth shut. Everybody do what you have to do. All the rooms are kind of playing the same game. Like they have to set up it looked like they were setting up legs for the droids, and that was pretty much it, and like just the legs and then putting them on racks. So it's like, everyone's playing against each other in the same room, and then we're all playing against everyone in the other rooms on the same floor. So I was like, all right, this is an interesting way to handle it. Everybody gets food as much as you want. It was like top team gets, or second team gets flavor or taste or something like that. Number one team gets actual flavors, like just weird stuff. So they're going through the process. Things are crazy. And then, of course, something weird happens. Something happens on like level 2, I think they said. Things shut down for half a second. It was like, seems like it's go time. And so they go through and it's like, all right, everybody, keep your mouth shut, pretend you don't hear anything, because they'll probably they don't actually care. They'll zap you. So it's a rumor. May have happened, may not have happened. Everybody shut up. Everybody do what you need to do. Process moves along. Of course, they got the old guy on the team. It's like, something's happening here. And eventually, of course, he ends up dying. He has a stroke, I believe they said. So the medical guy comes in. Of course, Cassian is like, hey, what happened on floor 2? And he tells him, keep your dude in line or whatever. Everything happens. And then it's like, all right, what happened on floor 2? It's like, all right, well, somebody finished out his time. That's the whole thing. They have your shifts done. It's not how many days, it's how many shifts you have. Same thing. And it's like, here's exactly how it happened. Got out. Somehow, next day, got back in on the same floor or a different floor. And they didn't know who actually heard about it. So they fried everybody on the floor. And it was just like, yeah, you don't get out. Not anymore. It was like, so we're not getting out of here. And I was like, not anymore. So it was crazy. It was a crazy way to end it. Obviously, that was the very end of all 3 episodes, but it was a fantastic ending to the arc, and I thought that was really well done. At least, for Cassian's side, it was really well done. And they had the great question of where he was like, I know is like the lead of that room, how many guards are on each floor. And he wouldn't tell him. It's like, dude, just like, you need to drop it, like, and stop talking because they're listening. And Cassian's like, look, nobody's listening. They don't give a crap. They do not care what we say or anything. They are not listening. And the end of that episode, when he realizes what's really going on, like there is no getting out. There is no just work your shifts and stay in line. And then you finally see the light of day. It's like, no, things are different now. We're just here. And so they had the line where he's like, how many guards on every floor? And he's walking. It's just like, never more than 12. And I was like, and that's it. Prison Break. I don't know how it's going to play out. I'm very excited for that. I assume it has to be in the next episode because there's no way that it becomes the next full arc, especially with the next 3 episodes being the last episodes, because it's 2 seasons of 12 episodes. They already decided that. So I would assume that he's going to get out in the next episode. So it's very interesting the way that they kind of handled that, where, this arc didn't really have a very definitive, this thing happened and this is how it ends, because if it did, he would have been out of the prison right now. Like, that was always the thing. So obviously he has to get out at the end of, or at the beginning of the very next arc. And I'm very curious how that's going to work. And, with 2 episodes after that, depending, assuming that takes up the whole episode or whole first episode, we'll just have to see how it plays out, because he has to get to the rebellion, which there's still a second season. So he might not officially join the rebellion again, but I assume he would. So who knows how that's going to play out on his part. But then we have the other characters. We have Mon Mothma, obviously her sister, everything that's going on there. She's trying to recruit an old friend, and just the process of trying to build up money and things like that. And now she has to work with a gangster. And apparently he's like, hey, I want to meet tomorrow at your house. And it's like, what are you talking about? And it's like, that's all we got. That's all I got. So that should be interesting for her character as well. And trying to build up this money with a gangster, and how does that even play out? Like her husband, like they already don't have a good relationship. They really showed like her daughter, especially when her friend was coming around, it would seem like her daughter was like, oh, is she like cheating on dad or something? That's just how it seemed. Like she seemed oddly rude for no reason. Like even her asking to be excused was weird. It was weird that her dad even sent her over there. So it was, and that just seemed like one of those things where it was like he sent her over there just to kind of bother him and kind of see if you hear anything random. So it's something like that where it was like, like I know they obviously don't get along and stuff like that, but it just seemed oddly actually. It seemed like more direct, I guess. But it's also the first time they've really interacted, because the other time was just her kind of calling her out about not going on like the trip or whatever it was, where she was like, I thought you were coming with me today. So aside from that, which I guess was fairly direct, admittedly, they were sitting at it's only 3 people. Yeah, she was kind of direct with her. I guess it was kind of her just coming up to her and seemingly being extra rude for no apparent reason. And then once again, weird that her dad sent her over. Like, dad said, I had to come to you to ask if I could be excused. And it's like, that seems odd. It seems weird that he would bother doing that. But I like the way it was handled. Dad lets me do whatever I want to do. That was the other thing. I think that was in the next episode. It was with the dress or whatever. And she's like, Dad lets me do whatever I want to do. And I was like, that's weird how this seems to be playing out. And we'll see how this ends up going. But it's just interesting how they're like slowly building that up. Like obviously the marriage itself is bad, but we do get some history on that, which we find out they were actually married before they were in politics, because it was a part of kind of the tradition on the planet. And it was like, oh, that makes it really interesting, because maybe they actually cared about each other, in the beginning, but it also seemed like a part of it was still a bit of an arranged marriage. And then it was just like, it ultimately just fell apart for them, but they kind of have to stick together. It's kind of the classic thing. So it's like, well, it adds an extra layer to the fact that they'd been together for a super long time. It wasn't like, oh, they found each other once they both got rich and powerful, and then it kind of slowly got bad. It was like they may or may not have kind of just been put together even before that happened. And probably when they got rich and powerful, it was just like, yeah, I have the option to see that I don't really like you anymore. But then they kind of just, stuck with it. So it kind of made it a little bit sadder, it's kind of seeing her life and how she's trying to build things up to really help out the rebellion. And that was very entertaining. And then, of course, on the other side of the rebellion, we still have the Empire, and they are definitely making some real strides. And I thought they're doing pretty much what I thought they were going to do. I was like, there's no way that we have basically the two characters who are just driven for taking out, the rebellion. There's no way they don't interact. And so, of course, either it's Cyril or Sybil. I swear I cannot remember this dude's name. I thought I had it, and I think it's Cyril because I was like, it's Cyril, like Archer, like Cyril from Archer, Cyril Figgis. So I'm pretty sure it's Cyril, but it could be Sybil. Either way, he ends up getting his actual job. He goes to like just the giant room, and I was having crazy thoughts because I was like, that room is so big. What if you have to pee? Like you have to take like a 15-minute break just to pee because how big the room was. I was like, where are the restrooms at? Like these are random things I think of sometimes when I see Star Wars stuff. I'm like, that room is so big. It just like logically speaking, you just can't do that. Like someone has to walk 5 minutes just to get to the restroom. Longer than that, based on how big that room was. Like you got to be walking forever. But anyway, he's doing his thing, just on the computer, whatever. Eventually, some guards come up. He ends up meeting the one other person that I knew he had to meet, whose name I totally can't remember. But obviously, she gets put in charge of really looking into what she wants to look into. They've been given basically carte blanche to do whatever they want. Like I think it's not IBS because that makes you poop. INS, I think was the acronym that they use. And so they've kind of been given full run of basically all resources by Senator Palpatine. I think they should have called him the Emperor. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. It wasn't like he's still Senator Palpatine. He was just full on like, no, I'm the Emperor now, and that is my title. They went full on Emperor Palpatine. So I was like, that's actually really cool that they referenced him in that way, and they call him that. Like it almost feels weird to me that nobody questioned that part, but it is what it is. Cause I'm just like, nobody thought it was weird that this dude who was a senator was just like, I am now the emperor. And nobody was like, something about that seems weird and like wrong in some way, shape, or form. But obviously he lied and was like, the Jedi did it. So, but still, it's like good people typically don't just go like, the Jedi attacked us and I'm here to help. Call me emperor now, though. That should, red flag should be just going off. It's like, why do you need that title? That's weird. Just saying. But they have a lot of money now, so she's allowed to actually do what she wants to do. She's kind of spitting out all the facts. Like she got called out, and it was just flipped. Like everything was just flipped on that guy, and it was super funny. Like he just got embarrassed, and his boss was like, that's actually a great idea. Let's see what it would be like. Like if people actually put a lot of effort into like just the minute details. And he was even cool about it. Like when he's like, "Hey, walk with me," and he tells her, he's like, that was very impressive in there. She's like, "Thank you," and he just kept walking. It was like, "Watch your back." And that was it. And he just kept walking. It was like, good job, but I can't watch everybody. And I know they're going to come after you because you just embarrassed this dude. And also, I would assume she has to be the newest person. That was kind of how they put a lot in there as far as the context of when she first was requesting things. And it was like, you got to watch your back. You are the new person and you're already ruffling feathers. So be careful. Even though I think you're doing a good job, watch your back. So I was like, all right. She's obviously, kind of on the right path. At least her boss believes to think so. And obviously we know how the series is going. She's on the right path. She's making some good connections. And that ends up leading her to either Cyril or Sybil. I'm going to go with Cyril just because of Archer. I like saying Cyril. So they end up connecting and he ends up being promoted because of that little moment there. And it's like, he believes that it was her that helped him. She's like, I had nothing to do with that. And he's like, well, my boss thinks you do, boss being his uncle. And so he still wants in. He's like, look, I did what I could to kind of show you what was real in the report and what was false, but I want to do more. And basically she's like, don't stalk me. Don't come at me again. Get your hands off me. And then she walks off. So somehow he's going to get involved. And somehow it's going to be just a little bit deeper. Like I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm very curious. We got 3 episodes to go, but I'm excited for that. They got super dark with the weird thing with the baby alien stuff. I was like, are they going to make up a weird sound? But it's just, leave it to your imagination. Great sequence. So that was crazy. The one dude who I think it was like 3 or 4 episodes ago, who wanted like the extra position in the hotel or whatever. That's the guy who was like, I'd like to hang him. And it was interesting seeing his eagerness. And I was like, that's the dude who was like, can I get this, title? Like, I know it doesn't come with the pay raise, but I'd like the title. That would be cool. And he's just like, eager villains is a weird thing. And he's like, I'd really like to hang him. I was like, that's crazy. Which they also referenced the hanging in the town square. Really sucks that it happened in the place they still live. I would have assumed that was on like another place he was hung, and that's just how it went. And then we find out how it happened. Very akin. Maybe that's why they showed it in that episode, because that was when Cassian got arrested, and it was literally for no reason. Like his dad was like, "Hey guys, stop! Don't do that." And then the people just turned around and it was like, "Well, you're here," and that's it. And then they hung him for that, and it was like, that's insane. Just like how Cassian was literally arrested because the guy was like, I think you're involved in this because you're sweating. And he had a great point that he was like, well, it's hot. And it was, it's unfortunate, but great 3 episodes, of course. Really enjoyed it as like a nice movie experience. Really, really got me with that cliffhanger, because I was like, dang, I thought the whole arc was going to be in prison, figure out how to get out of prison, villains and everybody still looking for him while he's arrested under a totally different name, which is also funny in itself, where he was just like, I'm free. And then he got arrested like instantaneously. And it was like, that's super effed up. But love the 3 episodes. Very excited for what we're going to get for the final 3. Once again, I will be doing a review of the last 3 episodes. I will wait. I assume it's going to, however they do it, I'm just going to wait for the 3 episodes and enjoy it in that way. So that'll be the final arc. So I will see you guys, I guess, at the very end of the month, pretty much. Thanksgiving. We'll see how it plays out. Either way, after the episodes come out, that's when I will end up seeing you guys for that review. So thanks for checking this one out. I will be doing a review for Tales of the Jedi. Just flat out, it's amazing. I absolutely loved it. But I will be doing a review of that right after I do this. It'll just be a different hat. It'll be that one, in fact. So check that out if you guys are interested. I'll have that as like the card at the end of this video as well. But thanks for joining me for this. I would love to know your thoughts on the last 3 episodes, where you guys think we're headed as far as the final arc. What you thought about some of the little, kind of mini revelations here and there, and characters finally starting to meet up, and what in the world's going to happen with Andor once he breaks out of this prison. Would love to know your thoughts and theories as well. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.